Durshyant Sharma was born on an undetermined date in 1992 in Hotar, a suburb of Jaipur, the capital of Rajasthan state in northwestern India. He was the second child in the marriage between Rameshwar and Bunty Sharma. Not long before, the couple had suffered the loss of their firstborn son due to an illness that shortened his life to 1 year. After little Yushanda, Piyush was born to the couple. Despite the joy that both the children brought, the family struggled with the pain of that early loss for a long time. However, by focusing their attention and diligence on the upbringing of Durshyant and Piyush, it became a great consolation for the parents. The family gradually set up their daily routine, with the father working as an accountant and the mother taking care of household chores. It was this closeness that allowed her to notice the withdrawn nature of Durshyant, who, unlike the other children, was not prone to pranks and did not pull the typical older brotherly pranks on the younger Piyush. In the back of her mind, this was comforting to Bunty. Later, already in elementary school, Durshyant, besides being a good student, was not very talkative, and in his free time, he preferred the privacy and tranquility of home. He especially enjoyed spending time with Bunty, or even just watching his mother while she cooked. She also enjoyed teaching him some simple cooking techniques. Durshyant's loneliness intensified in middle school due to his growing interest in technology and the digital world. He spent long hours immersed in the internet, virtually avoiding any social interactions. On social media, however, he projected an extroverted image through his habit of sharing photos of himself well-dressed, making it clear that he often attended events and late-night parties. Although the signs were obvious, Durshyant's mother, rather than worrying about his reticence, focused on how he showed a deep respect for Hindu traditions, always performing family rituals and practices with devotion. She was confident that when the time came to start a family, he would be ready to be an understanding husband and a valued member of the family. After graduating from high school in 2010, Durshyant enrolled in university to study engineering. Later, it was Piyush's turn to choose a career, and following in his father's footsteps, he decided to study accounting. Watching the progress of their two sons was a moment of immense pride for Rameshwar and Bunty. However, in 2012, when everything was going fine with his studies and he was preparing for an internship with a company, an accident cut short young Piyush's life. The tragedy plunged the family into immense grief. Then, concerned for Durshyant's well-being, his father turned to traditional Hindu practices, giving his only surviving son rings and talismans as protection against unfavorable twists of fate. In addition, to ensure the continuation of the lineage, he and his wife began searching for women for their son. Parallel to these plans of his parents, in 2014, after receiving his diploma, Durshyant found a job in a mining company where he was appointed as one of the project managers. By then, Rameshwar and Bunty had begun negotiations with a family from their community, whose daughter Vitu was still an unmarried young girl. The meetings were accompanied by long deliberations, and finally both families agreed that Vitu would be Durshyant's bride. An engagement ceremony was then held, where the girl's hand was formally asked for. It was then that the young people saw each other face to face for the first time. This happy moment revealed their mutual attraction, which of course brought both of them great peace of mind about their parents' choice. Thus, in May 2015, Vitu and Durshyant got married with all the rituals and faith of both families. Since then, months of idyll, filled with courtesy and mutual support, have passed. Vitu used to take care of household chores while Durschyant worked for the company, but once back home, he was always ready to help her with any tasks, especially in the kitchen, which was a real pleasure for him. In November 2016, when the couple had their first child, the grandparents were over the moon. It seemed that after so much anguish, life was finally kind and favorable to them. However, despite this harmonious and almost perfect appearance, during the many hours spent on the internet, at some point, Durshyant decided to create a profile on a dating app, adopting a fictitious identity. He introduced himself as Vivan Kogel, a millionaire and businessman from Delhi. Thanks to this ruse, he started communicating with Priya in February 2018. Priya was born in 1991 in the small town of Phalna in the state of Rajasthan. She came from a middle-class family and her father was a university professor. The identities of her family members remain a closely guarded secret. Outstanding in her studies from an early age, Priya accumulated many certificates and medals that proudly adorned the family home. In contrast to her academic success, her parents were increasingly worried about her growing rebelliousness. For when things didn't go according to her plan, Priya could stand up to them and get her way. When it came time to choose a university, her exceptional grades allowed her to choose from a variety of programs. She eventually decided to study art at the University of Jaipur. In 2012, she moved there, and her father took over his daughter's upkeep, sending her $50 a month. However, as mentioned, Priya was a person of dissatisfaction, and soon, enamored by the luxury and comfort of the city, she felt that this money was not enough. So, along with her studies, she began to attend various advanced courses, which, according to her plans, were supposed to help her find a job in public administration. In her second year, while leafing through the newspaper looking for possible job openings, Priya came across an advertisement that caught her attention. After writing down the details, she later went to the said place and found that it was an escort service that offered money for recruiting other female students. Her initial reaction was to refuse, but after hearing about the possible earnings, the ambitious girl reconsidered her decision. Soon she started working for the agency. From that moment on, Priya became obsessed with money, or rather, getting it easily. She constantly surrounded herself with luxury and quickly started her own company, a website offering escort services to wealthy businessmen. However, her deals with her clients were a scam. Whenever she was contacted, she would send a few photos for selection and demanded full payment in advance. Then, after meeting the client at the hotel where they were staying, she would take the money, turn off her phone, and disappear. Despite having to change phone numbers frequently, this inconvenience was minor compared to the large sums of money her scheme brought in. Priya grew her collection of clothes and accessories without worrying about bills, and her desire for luxury only grew. She clearly understood who her ideal clients were. Men between the ages of 35 and 50, preferably married, as they would likely remain silent after being scammed for fear of public humiliation or even the destruction of their marriages. However, in 2014, one such man still dared to lodge a complaint with the Jaipur police. As a result, Priya was found and arrested. Paying bail allowed her to avoid further trouble. After that, she started thinking of new ways to get rich quickly, which led her to commit an ATM robbery. Once in jail again, she still managed to get out within the shortest possible time, as she was released the same day. In early 2018, Priya began a relationship with a bank manager. At first, she acted like a normal fiancé, and they even started living together. However, suddenly, without any conflict, she started threatening him with a false accusation of sexual assault. The purpose of this blackmail was for him to give her $2,000. Not giving in to the threats, the bank manager reported the incident to the authorities, and Priya was once again behind bars. Despite her repeat offenses, she was once again free in February 2018. That same month, she opened a profile on a dating site and met Durshyant Sharma, a 21-year-old from Jaipur. Durshyant had recently worked as a model and producer in Mumbai. His mismanagement of finances led him into debts that reached $100,000, which eventually forced him to return to his hometown. After their personal meeting with Priya, he began a romantic relationship, trying to be as honest as possible. Over time, Priya hid her true employment and even made up a completely non-existent life for him. When the truth about his girlfriend came out, Durschyant did not reject her, but instead decided to take advantage of it. He asked her to get in touch through a dating app with a businessman, preferably from Jaipur, to get funds to help him pay off his debts. The suggestion coincided with Durschyant appearing among the girl's contacts, and she cleverly and cunningly saw him as the long-awaited opportunity her lover was looking for. In March 2018, Priya and Durschyant rented an apartment, and soon after, he introduced her to Lakshya, a friend from high school. Thus, the couple saw an opportunity to convince him to join them by offering a reward in return. During this time, Durshant and Priya kept exchanging messages until she finally managed to convince him to meet in person. The date took place in a restaurant. The young people liked each other and met regularly during April. On May 2, 2018, all ready for the purpose of carrying out her present assignment, Priya invited him to her house. Flattered by such an offer, Durshant agreed. After they agreed on a meeting place around 7 p.m. on that Wednesday evening, Durshant informed his father that he had to go to work to attend to an urgent matter, promising to return in about an hour. He then drove to a place Priya named. During the trip, she contacted him to tell him that she was in the company of two good friends who wanted to meet him. After 9 o'clock in the evening, Rameswar became worried and tried to contact his son, but the latter cut off the call and switched off the phone. After a few minutes, his wife wanted to know where he was. He answered her call, apologized, and explained that the police had impounded his company's truck and were demanding payment of a fine. Before disconnecting, he said he would probably be home after midnight or, at worst, the next morning. Nothing had prepared him for what was to come. On reaching the girl's house, Durshant was attacked by Lakshmi and Priya, who tied him up and covered his face. At this time, the woman demanded that he hand over $100,000 to them, knowing that the amount was absurd for his income. He had no choice but to confess to the lies he had made up about his virtual identity. Confused, Priya did not believe him. However, after checking his wallet and finding his identity card and driving license, she finally realized that she had been duped. Meanwhile, Durshant's family tried to contact him, but his phone remained disconnected. After midnight, desperate to find him, Rameswar went to seek help from some neighbors, and then everyone walked the streets trying to find any trace of him. Though they visited several police stations, they got no results. On the morning of Thursday, May 3rd, Priya forced Durshant to call his family and get the money they demanded, warning them that otherwise they would kill him. Durshant called his father. Disbelief and horror silenced his father for a few seconds, until a woman's voice on the other end of the line brought him out of his thoughts. His decisive words prompted Rameswar to try to take control of the situation. After the connection ended, Priya and Lakshmi took Durshant's debit card and asked for its password. Within seconds, it became clear to them that the daily withdrawal limit would not allow them to get the full amount they demanded. Besides, they were worried that the family might alert the police. Deeply disappointed at the failure of their plan and already sensing that there was no way out, using guns, they took Durshant's life. Later, Priya and Lakshmi got busy cleaning the apartment. After finishing, they got into the victim's car and went to the market together, where they bought a big suitcase with wheels. Unaware of the tragedy, Rameswar collected the money and deposited it in his son's account before noon on Thursday, after which he sent a message on his cell phone saying he had fulfilled his part of the bargain. As soon as Priya read this, she went to the ATM and, hiding her face, withdrew the maximum amount allowed by the bank. After returning home, she and Lakshmi put Durshant's body in a suitcase and placed it in her car. As an extra precaution, they set up a fake license plate number and drove to a wooded area in Amir village on the outskirts of Jaipur. There they dumped the remains. By the time information about the kidnappers and Durshant stopped coming in, Rameswar's nerves were on edge, and he decided to approach the police to lodge a complaint. The search for Durshant and his kidnappers was started immediately, but without a definite plan of action, the next step, the criminals decided to stay in the apartment. However, they realized that sooner or later they would need money to escape. The solution came from Priya, who, as usual, came up with the idea of tricking the man. After meeting him at a hotel, she asked him to pay up front, and shortly thereafter canceled the meeting, citing the need to pay the driver, and left. The perpetrators got into a car and drove to the train station. Their goal was to leave the city at dawn. That same night, Thursday, May 3rd, 2018, some passerby came across an abandoned suitcase and, thinking it might be his lucky day, opened it. Of course, what he found left him shocked, and he contacted law enforcement. After forensic medics arrived, the unidentified body was taken to the morgue. The preliminary autopsy report revealed that the victim died from multiple stab wounds and penetrating wounds to the face. After receiving this information and the physical features, investigators contacted Rameswar to confirm or deny that it was his son. When he reached the hospital and saw the body, the profuse wounds made the horrific ordeal worse. But when he saw the amulets his son was wearing, there was no doubt. It was him. The ensuing investigation was led by Police Inspector Gurupendra Singh, who, thanks to phone records, found that Durshant had called the same number several times in the days before his disappearance, unrelated to any of his contacts. Then, thanks to satellite tracking, police not only located the victim's phone, but also confirmed that both the victim's phone and the phone with the unknown number were too close to each other that night. Hoping that this information might still be useful, the police headed in that direction. Upon arrival, however, they found only an empty house. While experts collected evidence from the apartment, luminol tests showed numerous stains, and within hours, more than 100 items were seized for analysis. On questioning the neighbors, Priya and Lakshan were identified as tenants. In the early morning hours of Friday, May 4, 2018, the search revealed the records. They were identified as the phone number of Jaipur railway station, and the police immediately went there. The escape attempt of Priya, Dakshan, and Lakshan was foiled by the agents who immediately arrested them. On arrival at the police station, all three pleaded guilty, though there were huge differences in their statements. While the two men showed signs of remorse, Priya, on the other hand, showed little concern, and even the police officers began to doubt that she understood the gravity of the situation. On September 12, 2018, the trio appeared before the High Court for the first time. They were charged with wrongful imprisonment, murder, destruction of evidence, and criminal conspiracy. A remand for all was also confirmed during the hearing. Initially, each hired their own attorneys, but as time went on, they began to accuse each other of committing the crime. However, it was Priya who became the main defendant in the case. All of Priya's bail applications were rejected by the court. The joint trial was held in November 2023 in the Rajasthan High Court, presided over by District Court Judge Akit Kumar Hinger. Advocate Sanda Bluad represented the Durshant family. After the witnesses testified and considering the evidence presented by the prosecutor, the judge directly addressed the accused, observing that all facts must be proved accordingly on circumstantial evidence. In consequence, on November 23, 2023, all three were found guilty. The next day, by court order, Durshant, Priya, and Lakshan were sentenced to life imprisonment for the murder of Durshyant Sharma. Sadness was evident on the faces of the convicts, especially Priya, who could not restrain the tears that kept flowing down her cheeks. Though Rameswar watched the proceedings from a distance, he could not bear to come face to face with the accused. For him, the decision of the court was a great relief after a long wait of 5 years. While the wounds of the tragedy remained unhealed, Durshant's parents found new strength not only in their grandson, but also in Vita, who, no longer angry over her husband's past deceptions, continued to surround them with love and care.